Hi, this is Jessica from Nervous System Reset, and it is the weekend, the end of what has been, for many folks, just about everyone I know, a really long and confusing and uncertain couple of weeks. And I wanted to, I've just been sort of riding out the last couple of weeks, just sort of keeping my finger on the pulse of what's been going on and thinking about what it is that I wanted to offer in terms of messaging. So here's what comes up for me in terms of support and perspective that comes out of the last couple of weeks of working with clients and helping them navigate the heightened anxiety that they're feeling. I want to just start by reminding all of us that it is really natural and actually really a good sign that we're experiencing heightened anxiety right now. And what I mean by that is there's a reason to be feeling anxious. And it's our nervous system doing its job. It is picking up on signals all around, that things are not right. And when that happens, our bodies move into survival responses. They are taking care of us to make sure that we have the resources we need internally to meet whatever challenge or adversity is being detected in our environment. So, to try to just contextualize and normalize a little bit why we all feel so anxious. And also to remind us that it's one thing to feel anxious within our own bodies, but when there's a collective that's feeling anxious at the same time, that is a whole other heightened level of like sensory data that our systems are responding to. So, the first thing is it's good news that our nervous systems know how to respond and to move into activation responses. And our bodies are really just trying to deliver us whatever support we need internally to be able to face adversity. Okay. The next part of that I want to just mention is that it is totally possible to experience activation and overwhelm, right? So fight flight responses or overwhelm, shutdown, freeze responses, and to help our bodies remember how to move back towards safety cues. It takes some practice to learn how to do it, but it is possible to do that. And I think what's really important for us to all recognize and come to is that because of the nature of what we're facing, because it's uncertain and it has no um, really true projected timeline, it may go on for a while. Even though it's a good thing that our nervous systems are responding by activating, they can't sustain that very well for long periods of time without there being impact on our health and wellness. So it's going to be upon all of us to, start to figure out ways that we can help ourselves navigate through and regulate through activation, right? And there's a lot of great information that's kind of flooding the internet right now from all kinds of directions. Resources that people are suggesting, webinars, drop in online sessions. And so there's lots out there. There are lots and lots of tools. I wanted to share with you from my perspective, kind of the heart of what I teach people. Really, anything can be a regulating practice, particularly if it helps us orient back to sensation or sensory cues in the present moment. So for me, one of the quickest ways that our bodies remember their way back to the possibility of settling and stabilizing, because it might not feel like down regulating, it might just be stabilizing that you get to. And that's important, that counts. But one of the quickest ways to do that is to, again, find ways to connect with sensory experience or sensation that's anchored in the present moment. And there are so many ways that you could do that. That's the good news. There are an unlimited number of ways. And what works for one person won't work for everyone else. So we're all very unique in terms of how our bodies respond to stress, and we're all very unique in terms of how our bodies find safety and pathways of stabilization. But some ideas to just throw out there. And if you look back on, if you follow me on Instagram at Nervous System Reset, or if you follow me on Facebook at Jessica Schaefer Nervous System Reset, and I will post the links for those below, you'll see that I kind of regularly add into my feeds, suggestions of things that could be very simple regulation practices. So a couple of ideas or a handful of ideas that come from kind of those past posts, you might try, focusing on a visual cue in your environment. It could be, if you're lucky enough to see a tree out of the window of your home, you could look at the tree and just really notice all the details about it: the color of the bark, the texture, the leaves, whether there's wind moving through the branches. You could hear a sound that you're really attracted to, like the sound of rain on a window pane. Maybe it's the sound of a bird singing outside. Maybe it's even an airplane flying overhead. But to just focus on either that visual object or color or sound, and to just notice it for a few moments. And then to kind of check in and get a sense of, did your body feel a little bit settled by it? Did it feel neutral? Or did it feel activated? And if your body either feels neutral from the experience, or even just a little bit more spacious and a little bit more soothed, then that is a practice you can just start using wherever, whenever. Okay. And I want to remark here, neutral responses are still really helpful. They are stabilizing for your system. So we may not always feel better when we use regulation practices, but if we can stabilize, that's really important. Okay. Another thing you might try doing, if that doesn't particularly work for you in terms of focusing on an object or a sound, is to focus on a neutral body sensation: the feeling of your hands resting on your legs. Maybe it's your bum on the surface that you're sitting on. Maybe it's your feet on the ground. And maybe bring some movement into it. So wiggle your toes or use the palms of your hands to rub or kind of pat or tap on a body part, and just notice the sensation of the contact. That might work for you. It might be movement that is helpful for you, allowing your body to just kind of very gently sway a little bit, or maybe rock back and forth. Maybe you want to get up and move around and, swing your arms and let them flop back and forth. Whatever, again, feels organic and natural and kind of attractive for your body, do it. Movement might also be things that are a little bit more expressive: stretching or dancing. If you have a lot of anxious energy, you could try pressing against a wall. So placing the palm of your hands on a wall, bending your elbows, and then pushing yourself away from the wall. It would be a little bit like doing push-ups against the wall, where you actually release off of the wall in between. And to just do a few of those until there's a sense of your body feeling kind of satisfied, right? So different ways to explore movement. And of course, if you want to bring some playfulness into it, turn some music on, dance, let your body wiggle and shimmy, pretend you're doing the hokey pokey, whatever feels good. Other thoughts of things that you can do that could be helpful: touch, making contact with your body and just feeling the contact, the temperature, the texture of your hand on your body. These are just some general ideas. So again, kind of normalizing the fact that the anxiousness you're feeling right now is understandable, and it's actually a natural response. And then to be able to name the fact that our bodies are moving into survival physiology. And so wanting to find ways that we can help our body remember that even though it's activated right now, it can also find some safety in the present moment. And anything that allows you to anchor back to sensation might help you do that. Other things that I think can be particularly supportive and resourcing right now, aside from movement, like I just mentioned, would be finding ways to connect with nature if you can, right? And some of us live in urban areas and there isn't a lot of green space around. It doesn't have to be much. It could be a tree you can see from your window across the neighborhood. It could be a cloud in the sky. It could be a house plant, a plant that you have in your house. And if you don't have access to nature, maybe try finding online some recorded footage of nature scenes where you can see visual images, you can see water moving, you can hear sounds like water or wind, and you can kind of choose what nature scene um, feeds your heart the most, right? For some of you, it might be the ocean or riverways. For others, it might be snow-clad mountains. And for some of you, it might be forests and trees. But we actually can get some benefit, some regulatory benefit from watching digital imagery footage of natural environments, okay? It's one of the reasons why I try on my social media feeds to occasionally include a little bit of the natural beauty that I am so fortunate to live amongst, because I realize how regulating it can be. I know how regulating it is for my system. I actually don't think I could stand straight up if I didn't have it. But I want to share what's in my own backyard with as many people as I can. And then the last piece that I want to just mention that I think is so important to kind of wrap our brains around right now, particularly because self-isolating and social distancing is part of our lifestyles, whether we want that to be the case or not, for the near or foreseeable future. And so I want to remind you that our nervous systems actually take cues of safety or find safety in large part through social cues. So things like facial expressions, tracking the sound of the human voice, the tone of someone's voice, and kind of the cadence of their speech, gestures, all of these signals. So if we're in situations where we're self-isolating voluntarily or because we've been mandated, and we aren't connected to other people, we're not living with other people in our personal space, it's really important for you to find responsible and safe ways to actually have some social engagement right now. And so again, that might be, connecting via video chat with friends or family or colleagues. It might be taking advantage of resources online, drop-in classes or groups that are meeting. It might even be that you just find pre-recorded content like this message, where you resonate either with the message or you resonate with the person delivering the message, their face and their voice. You don't even have to really listen to the content if you don't want to. You could just kind of tune into the sound of someone's voice, and that could potentially be really regulating for your nervous system. And the last little part of that, kind of encouraging you to find creative ways to connect with other humans through digital means right now, is to also remind you that if you're newer to this idea of nervous system regulation and you haven't given it a lot of thought before, which is true for a lot of people, and you find yourself in the circumstances that we are all living in right now, where our nervous systems are naturally heightened, as they should be, I want to just emphasize for you, there's great resourcing online, but it might be really hard for you to help your nervous system feel stabilized right now just by hearing or reading, just by reading about things that you can do, practices that you can do. Okay. And the reason for that is your nervous system might actually need the bolstering of another human being to help you begin to find your way back to safety. So you could find that through social connection with family and friends. And you might choose to find it through like live video interface with a guide or a mentor. You might choose to find it through pre-recorded content that guides you through face-to-face. So these are just some thoughts. And really, I wanted to say this and put this out as a reminder to folks, because I think one of the things that I can see happening potentially is people being really, really unmoored and reading about all of these things they can do online and trying them on their own and not feeling any better, and then feeling really frustrated with themselves and really desperate because they feel so intensely anxious, and all the things that people are recommending as potential strategies are not working, right? And the reason that those things might not be working probably has nothing to do with them not being effective. And it definitely has nothing to do with your body, if you're in that scenario, not working or not getting it right. It has to do, probably most importantly, with the fact that your nervous system is feeling isolated and it needs some social support in order for it to kind of break through and find its way back to safety. So I hope all of that makes sense. I hope it wasn't too long-winded. I'm going to try to keep up with posting 1-minute reminders on my Instagram page throughout this time, just to help us all remember, like, it's normal to be feeling what we're feeling. And there are lots of things that we can do to resource and support ourselves through these times. So I will include below this video feed information about what I offer. I do offer private one-on-one sessions via video conference. I also have a number of um, self-directed online courses that combine multi-lessons delivered through video, including written transcripts and handouts. But the primary means by which I deliver that content in those self-directed courses is through pre-recorded messages like the one you're watching. So all of that will be listed below. And I'm sending out a lot of caring to all of us right now. Let's take care of ourselves. Let's take care of each other.